There, 3, 2, 1. What up, everyone, and welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast, episode 5. I got the legend himself, Tristen O'Brien. Tristen, how you doing today?
Good, thanks yourself. Thanks for having me.
Dude, absolute pleasure. Listen, like you have had a stroke of some of the worst luck in recent events. But watching you sort of claw your way back has been absolutely amazing to see. The reason why I knew I had to have you on. I saw you challenging a couple of oaks to I think a log lift with $1,000
And a
in
deadlift,
stake.
yeah.
Like what inspired you? For those who don't know, like just tell your story about what happened in the incident a couple months ago. Like what brought you to this point?
Okay, so essentially competing in a strongman competition in Heidelberg. 2-day show, did the first day fine. Got to the tire, was leading at that point. Everything's good, very heavy tire, 700 kgs. And, geez, I wish I knew what happened. I flipped the tire. They asked me, let's do a warm-up. So I flipped the tire once. My training partner at that point, Etienne, he said to me, listen, you flipped it, that's all you need. Cool. Whistle went, lifted, got it up. I don't know if I slipped or a tendon or something gave way, but that tire came back on me and essentially crushed both legs. So I had everything torn off, patella tendon, everything you can imagine came off at that point, to the point where there was nothing holding top part of my leg to the bottom part of my leg. So it wasn't a faint injury. It was the worst injury I've suffered in a long time, to the point where I haven't even released the video yet. I think in my head I'm waiting for a special moment where I feel I've gone over the hill, and I'll release that video because it's quite up close. You'll see what happens when 700 kgs lands on you.
I think someone posted it around the event time. I can't remember who, but it wasn't the greatest angle. I think it was like really front on. So yes. I just see the tire coming up, and I see the tire going back down, and just like there are a few. Like I'm not a squeamish person, but like I was done with Facebook after that. I was like, right, like I'm training legs in a couple hours. I'm done. I'm absolutely.
Well, then later on, I got a video for you where you'll see the other side, and with the camera's on the other side. You see, essentially, the best way to picture it is imagine you lying on your back, but your heels are touching your bum with 700 kgs on you. That's the angle. That's the best description I can give to you for it.
Dude, genuinely, you were lucky to still have legs, actually.
Well, I mean, like I said before we started this, I really wasn't aware of the severity of the injury. I don't know if it's because they didn't want to tell me or what it was, but in my head, I hadn't quite processed how bad it was till a bit later on. And then, obviously read that letter, and I was like, okay, wait.
Moment? Like, how bad was the pain, like, as it happened? Because I imagine adrenaline's coursing through, there's a lot happening. Like, what happens in a moment like that?
I think guys around you will tell you the spirit and brotherhood that's there, because that tire hit me. I don't even think it was on me for 1.5 seconds, and guys jumped in there, had that tire off me, they dragged me away. Then you really, really see what it is, that strength, brotherhood, and how the guys surround you and whatnot. Because at that point, I was in. It was almost a kind of agony where you can't quite describe it. You can't quite put your finger on it. You have you ever been in a situation where you don't think, something is very wrong?
Yeah.
That's essentially it. Where you're lying there and you can't really feel your feet, and you at that point something is wrong, and that's the only way I can describe it. The rest is a bit of a blur between. I think Heidelberg being very religious, with people drawing crosses on my forehead and all kinds of things. But yeah,
that's intense, man. Yes, that's intense. So, like, what was the immediate aftermath? Like, how long were you in hospital for? What was the period between it happening and your surgeries? Like, what was that about?
So essentially, this happened on Sunday. I was rushed to a private hospital in Heidelberg where they do, they stabilize. So the first thing they did was take me for tests to check if there were any breaks or fractures. And for some reason, there wasn't even a hairline fracture on any bones in my legs. Just everything else fell apart. So they stabilized me, and then it became a case of finding a surgeon, a very specific surgeon for the reattachment. We found a surgeon in Groenkloof Hospital who specializes in knees. It's Higeman. Brilliant surgeon. I mean, I cannot rate the surgeon enough for what he did and what he was able to do with the condition of my legs, because there's no real, all the conversation we had, they always deal with one knee. Somebody's hurt one knee. To have both knees detached was a little bit of an interesting situation. So from there, they raced me out to Groenkloof, stabilized me. Next morning, bright and early that Monday morning, I was in theatre. I think I was in there for 6.5 hours. And that was the start of the journey.
Hectic, man. And did you have a single surgery? Were there multiple surgeries? Like how that
So there was 2 surgeries because there was so much hardware inside the knee to keep everything attached and stable. I think it was the first surgery in about 8, 10, 12 weeks, somewhere around there. I went in for the second surgery to have that all taken out.
Okay. So do you have any hardware left in, or is it everything?
No, everything's out. Everything's out. Strong like Mother Russia.
and like to go from that to having like both knees like completely like to I can't even imagine what it must feel like to have like every single tendon and ligament just like severed, and like you describe it like nothing's holding your top leg from your bottom leg together anymore. To just recently you pulled was it 215 on the deadlift?
Yeah, 215. Yeah.
That's incredible. And like form wise, I was expecting a bit of a stiffy. It was actually pretty decent. Like how do you feel?
Yeah, it was interesting. So what I've done is, I think as athletes, we've all got the same problem where we expect something from our body, and then you will push to the point where you get what you expect. So what I did was I went to Terence Bosman, who's one of my training partners. He's the youngster. He's also a personal trainer and a coach and so forth. And I decided to use him as call it soundboard. So he put a program together for me. And what we did to slow my progress down was we work in 8-week blocks where we only add a certain amount of kgs per 8-week block, if that makes sense. So we've kind of got, okay, so the first 8 weeks, we want to get to 220. Now, I'm in week 6, I pulled 215. It didn't really, I'll be honest with you, it didn't really feel heavy, but it was more intimidating, saying 215 kgs in my head than it was anything else. So the next 8-week block will be 250 kgs. And that's how I'm working. I'm trying to use that to kind of keep myself, on a proper track, instead of going, 215 works, so next week I'll go 230.
Yeah. And the tendency to get carried away and try and like return to 100% back on form, I can imagine, is always like looming.
100%, yeah.
Okay. I see. Terence is one of the guys you challenged to a little competition. I think the other one is Keel. I'm pronouncing it correctly.
So that all came about because you know what, you either back yourself or you don't. So it wasn't meant to be a big thing. SMS the guys and I said, you know what, guys, I'll draw 5,000 Rand cash for you. Next year, December, this time, we do a log-in deadlift. I back myself. I back the fact that I'll beat the two of you, Keelan and Terence. Do you want in? And they both jumped in it, obviously. And then old Brian got involved. Brian thought, well, this is good fun. So he started putting it out there. And then the Durban guys got involved now with Dean Shelley and Blake and Tubbs were like, oh, even better. We want to climb in now. So I said to them, come, I'll put the money on the table. It's there. I don't need a fancy arena. We don't need shirts. We need nothing. We'll go. Next year, December, I'll challenge anyone.
Now, I'm telling you, it takes a special kind of human being to go through what you've gone through. And like the smart thing in most people's minds would be like, listen, like I've seriously hurt myself. I'm retiring now. I'm done. Whereas you're like, listen, I still have a little bit more fight left in me, and I'm going to challenge folks who don't have the advantages I have, and I'm going to go gun for it. Like, it takes a special kind of human to do that.
My last comment to them was essentially, I have nothing to lose. They have everything to lose. I will let them know for the rest of their days that they were beat essentially a partial cripple. So it's all on them. You know what I mean? I come in there and guys go, well, we know what happened to you. You know, you lost both kneecaps. You had to have everything reattached. It's all on their shoulders now. I just come out firing, you know?
Well, way to turn a disadvantage into a mental advantage, actually. Because if you lose, like if every single one of them beat you, okay, cool, they beat a cripple, big deal. But if you take any of them, actually, that's a huge feather in the cap.
Yeah, you gotta make it work, you know. Lemonade from lemons.
Lemonade from lemons. I like that. I like that mentality. So tell me, what in your background has gotten to the place where you have this kind of mental fortitude? Because I'm like, there are a lot of strongman powerlifters and guys who are in the sport who haven't been forged by fire the same way you have. So what's been the key to your sort of success?
You know, it's funny because I get asked that a lot. You know, I got asked that by the surgeon. I get asked that a lot. You know, why? You know, I forced myself to walk. I went and got myself a walker. My appointments with my surgeon, I drove myself there. I just think you've got two choices. You've got choice A, where you kind of go, oh, woe is me, I'm injured. You know, this is, guys, you will never understand. I'm so sore. I'm so this. I'm so that. Or it's, I'll do a bit more tomorrow. I'll do a bit more tomorrow. I'll walk tomorrow. You know, and that's essentially, I was in a wheelchair. I had friends around me, Etienne Smith and so forth, that would quite literally drive me out in a wheelchair to the gym with them. And I'd bench in a wheelchair. But, you know, you can make excuses or you can do. And what I'm choosing to do is do. You know, I'm not saying I'm going to beat anyone. I'm not saying I'll ever lift the same weights I did ever again. What I'm saying is I'm going to try. I'm going to try with everything in me to do it.
Love that. I love that. And how important has like your because it sounds like you really have a really good support system around you, like people you can trust, people who've been there helping you. Like how integral to your recovery has that been?
Oh wow! I mean, flip. I don't even know where to start with that. So, you know, the first person at my side is obviously my wife, and my wife's a physiotherapist, which has helped and has also caused many fights because I think I'm her most difficult customer. You know, I came out of hospital. My training partner, Etienne, arrived at my house. He built ramps right around my house. He built ramps for my front door, my back door. He built me a special stand for the bathroom. He built me a stand for the toilet. You know, I had Garth Collins on the phone trying to find the right surgeon, who's a proper surgeon that you can go to. Guys just stood there. And I mean, even the wider community on the day of the injury, I will release that video eventually. And, you know, maybe you and me can have a chat outside of this. But that tire sits on me for the reaction time of some of these guys. Andre Sweeney and his son, to be exact, is incredible. I don't even know how people reacted that quickly to it. So it's been phenomenal. It's been absolutely phenomenal. And I think a lot of guys are in the same boat because, you know, in the strength world, your body is your tool. And when that gets taken away, kind of your identity gets pulled away with it. Now you've got to redefine yourself. You know, who am I? What am I? So that support structure has been immense. It's been everything. It's the reason I'm here now.
It's actually, it never ceases to amaze me how because like strength athletics can be such a at least from the outside looking in, such an ego-driven sport. And it's like it's individual sport. It's you versus weight. It's who can lift the heaviest. It's a very macho-looking sport. But the camaraderie in the sport, I think, rivals any other sport in the world. Like it never ceases to amaze me. Stories like yours, where it's like at your lowest, where you think you're gonna have no one by your side, you have so many people surrounding you. It's actually pretty incredible.
100%. You know, I couldn't thank the guys enough. There were a lot of guys in my corner. You know, the whole of TNT Mercury. Guys supported me. You know, my birthday, Etienne reversed in here with his Fortuna. He loaded me in the back. He drove me out for my birthday. All the guys were there waiting for me. You know, Yeah, I could not, if I wanted to, fault anyone.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So what's your like? I know you're building up towards something massive next year, December this time. But do you have any interim plans, interim sort of like goals that you want to achieve? Like,
so I would say April. April, I'd like to be at a 300 kg mark on the deadlift. Again, and that's paced, controlled. I started squatting, box squatting. So, that's also been very interesting. Not very heavy, 40 kgs, but, under my own accord, which is great. It's a start. I think you've got to start somewhere. So I think what I'd be happy with is, I would say, like my press as well on my log, I've kind of got to relearn to dip and press. I can strict press a log, but I've got to learn the whole motion all over again. So I would say by March, if I could do a 130 log, a 300 deadlift, and a 140, 160 squat, a box squat, I'll be very happy.
That's actually incredible. Like, what were your maxes on those prior to the injury?
So I've deadlifted 400. I've logged 190 in comp, 200 in training. I've squatted 370, 380. I've front squatted 300. So, nothing to where I am now, but I've put up some decent weights in the past.
No, I mean, like, because how long ago was your injury? Like, you're talking you're on the 50% mark with most of these things. When was the injury?
10 months ago.
No, man, like building 50 after severing everything in your knee to building up to about 50, 60% strength in 10 months is actually bloody impressive.
Yeah, you know what it is. I get that. I do get that, but as strength athletes, you know how it is. You know how it goes. You know where our minds are. I'm following the motion. And there are still a lot of things that are very difficult for me. I won't sit here and pretend. The squat feels very foreign, very, very foreign. I did like 3-4 sets of 5 reps on 40 kgs, and I've almost got to use lines to make sure that my knees are moving in the right direction, and it's a foreign movement. Deadlift, I've had to really work on like getting into a comfortable position and making sure, because the tendency is to bypass the knees altogether and just stiff leg it up.
In terms of like everyday life activities, walking, driving, well, you said you were driving yourself to these appointments. Like, have any of those been impacted?
So funny, it was very weird movement. So like one thing that took me a while was steps. Because I didn't have the strength to control my body weight down, I would almost collapse under that kind of thing. So steps were a very big challenge. I had to kind of reteach myself that. Trying to think what else. Driving, I really pulled the piss a bit in driving. Like I forced myself into a car with both my knees wrapped up and everything like that, much to my wife's horror, who fought me on it. And then I'd wheel myself out to the car and drag myself in, and then proceed to drive wherever I needed to go and hope I could get in and out properly wherever I arrived. But yeah, I would say steps were very difficult. And what happened was it's only kind of just auto-corrected itself, is because there was such a lack of strength in the quad, the knee would collapse. So I'd be walking and my right knee would almost give way. So those two have been kind of where I've battled, not so much anymore, but yeah, they were difficult.
Well, listen. After that kind of injury, if that's the only thing you're struggling with, that's not too bad. Actually, that's not too bad.
No, I said to Garth Collins the other day, like, I'm pain-free. I'm completely pain-free. And I feel It's probably got a lot to do with years of abuse of squatting and deadlifting, but them having to clean out the knee and stuff. Because now I deadlift and I squat and I don't wake up with knee pain. I've got no knee pain. So it's like quite a bizarre feeling where I'm almost like, should I be hurting now? Should something be sore?
It's probably that oxymoronic thing where the joint itself is like, I'm actually thankful these strong ass quads and hamstrings aren't pulling on me constantly anymore.
100%, yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, but tell me, like, have you since you can't be in the front as an athlete anymore? Have you taken some time to be in the background, helping organize competitions, coach others? Like, what have you been doing with your time?
Very much so. So, like, my first step was making sure that I'm always at Area 51 on a Saturday. I always want to be part of what the boys are doing. I want to be in the mix, even if it's my 180 kg deadlift in the corner and my 120 log. I want to be in the mix with everyone. So I'm there on Saturdays, and then I've done quite a bit of MC work for like the Titan Games. I'm leaving for Durban on Saturday morning for, I think it's KZN Strongest Man. I'm the head ref there. So wherever I can participate, I climb in. And all it does is it lights more of a fire under my arse when I come back, and then I spend my whole day there telling them, I'm coming, don't worry. And get all motivated, get back and carry on training.
That's freaking brilliant. And I find, like with someone with your kind of spirit, seeing other athletes performing well and being in the vibe, it probably does make you itch to be like I should be part of this. I'm gonna get back to part of this.
100%. I very much want to, but like I think I've learned a lot now. I want it on my terms. You go through this whole thing where you need to prove yourself. You're doing every show, and I want to do it on my terms. I
actually admire like because I know with me with powerlifting, like if I do more than 3 competitions in a year, like I'm asking for my body to hate me. Whereas like the strongman, I get the vibe you guys compete fairly regularly. Actually,
I went through this whole phase where I wanted to win SA Strongest Man as well as the overall overall powerlifting championships as well. 2017 or 16, I won the overall powerlifting, the Rhino Championship, and then I came second in SA. So that was the closest I've got to trying to win both in the same year. But yeah, that deal was grueling.
That was what did you total? 880.
I think the first one I totaled 880, and then the next one 900 and something kgs. Yeah,
that is incredible. That is incredible to be doing both strongman and powerlifting at a higher level. I can imagine it's very demanding on the body, which is probably why your recovery has been as good as it's been. Being like you had such strong structures to start with.
Yeah, look. Now, older me turning around and looking at younger me would say, don't be an idiot. Don't be a village idiot, because, like you're trying to hit numbers for your powerlifting. So every week I know I'm either working 5x5 or 3x3, or, this week I need to do 3 triples on a 300 kg deadlift. I need to do 3 triples on a 280 squat, but then I also be needing to do doubles on log or axle or yoke or whatever it is. So it's 2 different sports where you're trying to play at that border the whole time, which does become very abusive on the body. I did it 1 year, and after that I was like, right, thank you very much. I'm done with this.
I do find granted, like as a coach, I would never advise any athlete to try anything like that, but I do find the people who do somewhat crazy feats of effort like that, even though physically it might not do you any favors, mentally though, you become a much harder individual.
That lovely old saying, you can't beat someone that doesn't quit.
That's the one.
Yes, you beat me on Saturday, I'll come back next Saturday. You beat me that Saturday, I'll come back the next Saturday. One of those Saturdays, you're going to lose, So yeah. I think that's the mentality. Just keep coming back. That's what strongman is. When you look at strongman as a sport, you arrive in this sport, you're 110 kgs, you're a youngster, you think you're it, and the first person you walk into is 170 kgs. And your maximum deadlift, they don't consider that a warm-up.
Yeah.
When we started strongman back in the day, there was no social media and publicity around it. You arrived at these shows, there was no under 105 or under 90 or you got humiliated. I remember arriving at my first show, and I got there, and there I was, young, 20 years old, and 103, 104 kgs, one of the boys talking with Willie White, who also became a 105 champion, and he was also like 103, 102. And up pulled Etienne Smith and Henny O'Dan in their prime. 270 kg guys got out of one car. And the first thought was, how in God's name do we compete against these guys? Like,
you don't
how? You know, for many years, and the guys, the Keelan Mills and the Terrences and the Fricky Pages will all tell you, we used to go to the house, Etienne's house, to train, and all we would do is, like, the farmer's walk was 160 kgs a hand. We couldn't do that, but all together, like 6 of us, one would move at 2 meters, the next guy would move at 2.5 meters, until we got to 20 meters, and Etienne would run it the whole way back. Then we would do our 2 meters, 3 meters. His log, it took about 4 months before any of us even rolled the log, because his log empty was 140 kgs. So no one could press that. No one could even roll that. And that's where they started their training. So it was one of those, I'll just keep coming back. Next week I'll get it, and I'll keep coming back. You know, that's where we all learned it from.
I felt like that was the problem with powerlifting, strongman, say 10 years ago and so forth. It was, I find there were a lot of people trying the sport, specifically when I started powerlifting. There were a lot of people trying the sport. Very few would make it past their second or third comp. It's like they'll do it for a while, do it for like maybe half a year, quit, never try it again. And I find like now we're finally starting to see people who enter the sport knowing the type of dedication it's going to take to actually become good and willing to pay that price. Because now suddenly the popularity of sports is like exploded in the country.
And do you know what I bring that all down to? CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit making and publicizing the predominant lifts. Because all of a sudden it wasn't wild for a woman to be deadlifting or squatting heavy. And then you got these girls that would come out and go, well, flip, I can squat heavy, I can deadlift heavy, but I can't do a muscle up. So where do I go? And then you've got the sport that's looking at them going, well, here we are, this suits you perfectly. So I bring it down. Like a lot of guys in our younger days, were, CrossFit, strongman's like CrossFit for men, and, all these kind of comments that guys throw around. But in the back of my head, I thought to myself, well, this has exploded on the scene, and it's made the predominant lifts popular. You had women squatting in gyms. You had women deadlifting in gyms. And that, in my mind, is what really gave powerlifting, I would say in the last 7-8 years, like a boom, a real big explosion. Now you've got this massive women's division,
It's quite exciting. It's like actually quite exciting because when I was chatting to Danielle a couple of weeks ago, I was telling her like even like the top 10 women's list in SA was like stagnant for a while, and now suddenly you have her coming from out of the blue, topping the list. You have Jade coming in. I think Jade's like 3rd or 2nd or somewhere in there. Like suddenly, like even who's who at the top, that's starting to shuffle around a little bit as more and more competitions take place. So
look at Rowan's uncle. She just pulled 260 raw.
I can't I can't fathom at her body weight being a female how that's even possible. I feel like there's some days where if I come in half baked to the gym at 260 feels freaking heavy to me, and here she is doing it. I'm like it's almost like this, as one of the better males, like I can't ever show up not firing because I will be embarrassed.
Well, then you, in that mindset, understand when I'm walking around in my shoes, where I'm like, oh, big day, guys, 200 kgs, big day. Some girl in Durban's going, oh, I just did that for 3 sets of 10.
It's absolutely insane how strong. Like in the last 5 years, what I thought was physiologically possible for the opposite gender has like been absolutely shattered. Absolutely shattered.
And then that's one thing. Then you look overseas, and then you look at these international women strongmen, 300 kg deadlifts, 130 kg log, 160 kg Atlas stones. There's open division guys now that couldn't beat some of these women. Me being one of them. You know what I mean? Like, these women are strong.
It's humbling. I'll tell you, it's really humbling to know. Like, listen, like if you're not prepared, like there's women out there who would wipe the floor with you 3 ways from Sunday. But I find for me, it gives validity to the sport. Because I find a lot of youngsters will come in and be like, I'll see someone who has like a little bit of potential squatting at the gym, and I'm like, hey, have you heard of powerlifting? You should give it a shot. And the first thing they ask is like, oh, like what are the guys in my division doing? And I'm like listen, dude, like you up until 10 seconds ago, you didn't know the sport existed, and now you want to measure up against what the best guys in the country are doing. Like, it doesn't work that way. This is a legitimate sport.
And that's a social media issue. That is a social media issue. Everybody's sitting and looking at the 0.1% of lifters. That's who they follow, and that's who they put themselves up against. You know, I follow Brian Shaw. I'll never be like that. Well, 100%. Genetically, size, if you're never going to be like that. But what you are doing is following that 0.1%, and that's what you're gauging yourself against. And that's a social media issue.
Now, it's a problem. I mean, like, if you take like Brian Shaw, there are literally 5, maybe 6 human beings on the planet who can take him on a consistent basis. Everyone else cannot.
100%, and that's just, it is what it is, you know. But again, I always refer to that as a social media issue. You know, it's like, who do you follow? No, I follow Larry Wheels, and I follow Brian Shaw, and they give all these big names, and I'm like, yes, 100%. These are phenomenal athletes. I mean, you can throw the likes of Nicholas in there if you want, but you're looking at the 0.1. So if you're trying to compare yourself, you're making a big mistake. And here's the reason.
I find strength athletics and maybe bodybuilding to a certain extent as well are the only sports where people actually do that. If someone's playing under 13 rugby or under 15 rugby, or whatever it is, they're not looking at Sia Khaleesi and trying to figure out, oh, like I want to be exactly like him. Like I want to be like him tomorrow. They understand the process of like, first I have to go to the next team, then eventually first team, then play at varsity. They understand it's a process. But when it comes to like lifting, suddenly it's like, no, I want to lift 300 kilos tomorrow.
100%. And meanwhile, that road is a very long and twisted road, you know, ups, downs, good days, bad days. And it's evolved so much. When we were younger, 300 was a number.
Yeah.
300 now doesn't register anywhere. You don't talk to anybody in the know and go, I deadlift 300, and they're like, wow. They're like, oh, okay. You know,
much to my chagrin, actually, because I feel like I am always just behind the curve. It's always like, okay, I want to hear a 300 deadlift. A 300 deadlift is respectful. I want to get there. I get there like a year after it's popular to do a 300. I'm like, fuck, I'm behind again. And I'm like, okay, I want a total in the 800s. I get there, it's no longer cool to be just in the 800s. I'm like, fuck, I can't catch a break here.
Yeah, yes and no. You know, yes and no. I think that just shows how the sports move. But irrelevant. 300 kgs Monday to Sunday is 300 kgs.
It's the standard of what's super cool might change, but certain benchmarks will always be certain benchmarks.
100%, and 300 kgs is one of those, you know, as is 400. And every jump you do, you know, 200 to 220 is so easy. 220 to 260 is so easy. 300 to 350, like I would say 300 to 360 is in the same category, but 360 to 400, that's a different conversation altogether. That's yours. You'll jump 300 to 360. Look at the open division guys. 360s all over the show. Give me the list of plus 360s, because that's where it really starts to become a nightmare. You know, so you've got these different categories.
My theory on that is always there's a certain, for instance, a 100 kilo deadlift, even if you're a 40 kilogram female, 100 kilo deadlift can only do so much damage to your body. Like your minimum bone density and your minimum tendon strength,
100%.
Even if that's your max. But if your max is 200, or even if you're strong enough to lift it, it has a certain different way of hitting the body, where now you're actually lifting heavy enough where you can crush bone if you're not careful. You can tear ligaments clean off if you're not careful. And as you go higher, it gets worse and worse.
Isn't that Louis Simmons? It's the only sport in the world where you train to get strong enough to drop something that can kill you.
Yeah. If it wasn't for that, where would the fun be, though?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm stuck in that. I'm stuck. Like my best dead right now is exactly 360, and the training now at the new percentages, I'm like this is 80%, like 80% has always been. Why the fuck is it kicking my ass every single time I attempt it?
No, 100%. You know, and then what you'll find is you'll break that 360, and things will roll on until you hit another figure that becomes like, you know,
the new
that's the number. And you've almost got to backtrack from that again. You start the whole process all over again, the variations and 15, 8 weeks, whatever it may be, cycle to jump 5 kgs. You know, woo, what's the next number? And here we go. And this is day in and day out.
No, it's actually incredible. But I find that's what I love about the sport. Even though that's what most people shy away from the sport because of. It's the whole, like, there's so much effort you need to put in for those small little sustainable jumps in progress. And I find for me, like, that's what makes it like I love how objective it is. Like if I can go from lifting 300 to 305, objectively I am better. Whereas if I play tennis, I'm like, is my backhand really better? Like, is it like, does it look better? Does it feel better? You can't really tell, you know?
Yeah, no, it's linear growth. It's just always want to make sure I'm a little bit better than yesterday. Fine, I'm not going to be moving more weight, but maybe I could move more volume.
And that's the thing. There's multiple. That's another thing newbies don't understand, is where there's multiple. Progress looks different depending on what you're trying to measure your progress as. If you're trying to measure absolute strength the entire time, there's a lot of other types of progress you're not going to notice that still matter.
Variation on top of variation.
So, given your, I know your next big, hairy, audacious goal is the log and deadlift competition, but are there any, like, before you retire and call it in, are there still some things you want to hit in your mind before everything is said and done?
Yeah, next year I want to make sure I flip that tire again. Like, I will flip that tire again. Tire won't beat me. I will go back to it. And then once I've done that, I think just because, for no other reason, just because I would want to deadlift 400 again. Not in show, not in anything. I just want to deadlift 400 again. Just because people have said, you know, you probably won't be able to. And I'd like to do it to say, well, you can.
That whole like, only I will ever say when I can't do something. I'm not going to let the world or an injury or other people dictate to me.
No, you know, I've had surgeons tell me this. I've had doctors tell me this. I've had friends say, you know, just walk away. No, it's okay. I'll walk away on my terms, and my terms are not losing terms.
There we go. Yeah.
Listen,
like the mental strength you have, I would like to think I have. I am not sure. I haven't been tested like that, and I don't want to be either. So I have to say kudos to you, man. Like that's really impressive to bounce back the way you have.
It's very, very simple. It's not a complicated thing. At one point in our lives, fine, it may not be physical, it may not be in a break, but we will all be faced with something that has the ability to destroy us. Every human on this planet, I don't care who you are, you're going to be faced with something. And there's not a lot of gray area. I'm going to work through it, or I'm going to sit in a corner and it's going to destroy me. The world carries on. Time keeps moving. No one cares. People will only show you so much sympathy. You know, get up. You know, time just keeps moving forward. So everybody will move on without you. It's your decision.
No, 100%. Like, truer words have never been spoken. Tristen, thank you so much for joining me with this podcast. Like, I was an absolute honor chatting to a legend like you. Wishing you nothing but the best. I'm really looking forward to that competition, because 5K on the line, you with your disadvantages, but with the fire in your belly, like that's going to be exciting.
No, there's a few guys. We've had Billy White, who's not even competing. He just says he likes it. He'll throw in another 5,000 Rand. We had D. Shelley from Durban, said he'll throw in another 5,000 Rand. So if all carries on, by the time we get to this end point, there's going to be something worth fighting for.
This is actually going to be there's actually going to be one of the I can imagine one of the bigger strongman competitions of the year at this rate.
Yeah, well, what we've done is, just to give you 2 minutes on that, is what we decided to do was we want to make it like a UFC style strongman show. So we've put aside for 15 bouts where guys can call out other guys. You know, time to put your money where your mouth is. Call out, and we determine whether we think the comparison is correct. So you can't be an open and call out under 90.
Fair.
You know, we want call outs like Nicholas Dupree calling out Chris van der Linde for a raw deadlift. You know, where it's big. We want big call outs. We want guys that are there to fight. And we're going to have prize. I'm putting up cash. I've told the guys I'm putting up cash. Win and take it. There's no entry for. I don't care. I don't care what shirts you wear, what sponsors you bring in. Nothing. Come lift in front of the Jets, and the guy you're calling out, lift in front of him. Put your money where your mouth is.
That sounds bloody exciting. It almost makes me want to train log just so I can come and dip my hat in.
You're missing out.
I've been wanting to try strongman. I just don't think I'm genetically blessed enough to dabble in both at the same time.
Where are you based?
Now I'm in Port Elizabeth.
So you out that way. Yeah, you are a bit isolated that side.
And what's shitty for me is, like, if I head Durban side, strongman's big that side, it's awesome. If I head Cape Town side, strongman's big that side, it's awesome. I'm smack dab in the middle of no one does the sport here.
Maybe it's savings, you know, hidden savings for you. Saying we're just looking after you. We're looking after your body. It's okay.
Listen. Just like you, I determine what I can and can't do. If one of these days I want to put my hat in, I'm just waiting for the right time and right opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, we're there. We're there when you're ready.
Love it, man. Before I let you go, any sponsors or anything you want to shout out and plug?
Well, obviously, I always shout out to TNT Mercury. They've, you know, the story from TNT Mercury is I've done my right knee before, and I got back from China after snapping my patella tendon. I rolled into a powerlifting competition on a wheelchair to support someone, and TNT, Matthew Hallenby, was standing there asking if he could sponsor me. The man wanted to sponsor me in a wheelchair. And, yeah, I live, eat, breathe TNT and always will, regardless.
Ah, that's freaking awesome. And TNT has always been like, every time I've been Durban side for a comp, like they've been there in full force.
It doesn't matter what strength comp you go to, they're there. Matthew Hallenby, Garth Collins, Etienne Smith, it's all big lifters.
No, absolutely phenomenal. So, like, shout out to them because I have some nice shirts from you guys. That's freaking awesome. Shout out to you, man. Listen, you're absolutely strong. You're both physically and mentally. Wishing you nothing but luck with your training, and I might just put a little bet on you to win. I think everyone else is gonna have a really hard time beating your mental fortitude right now.
But thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on here, and I look forward to the next one. Next year, December, we do this again. We discuss what happened.
100%. Looking forward to it. Everyone watching at home,
awesome,
thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.